So you're locked in. You're invested in making 2026 your hot king spring leading up into summer. But what if I told you that everything you're doing to improve yourself for the summer is actually just making you weaker? Crazy. I know looksmaxxing, things like fashion, fitness, and 90% of looksmaxxing is just being lean. But fitness, fashion, skincare, the hair, it's everywhere. It's blowing up and is trendier than ever.
Oh my God!
It's here to stay, and most of the behaviors themselves are good, apart from like the bone smashing, and I suppose taking testosterone when you're 14, doing meth. But besides that, besides doing illegal things and questionable things for your health, the problem isn't usually what you're doing, it usually just comes down to your why. Okay, so you did come here to find out why your efforts are being wasted, why your glow up isn't quite working. So let's go over the basics really quick about what you are to do behaviorally to get yourself there. Then we'll talk about why it's not quite enough. So first, if you're not already, be in a calorie deficit. You're running out of time. Unless you live in Minnesota like me, where the weather is unfavorable, it's warm one week, you can maybe start thinking about bringing out the shorts, and then the next week, boom, it is a low of 15 again. Point is, if you want those abs to show up, if you want to start busting out like the white Henleys, which apparently for 2026 is among the sluttiest things that a guy can wear. If you want to start revealing the frame, you got to start taking the chisel and kind of refining things. The vehicle to do that is going to be the calorie deficit. Next up, get a skincare routine. Very simple. Doesn't have to be crazy long. It can be. Mine is in the morning, do a cleanse, toner, vitamin C serum, moisturizer, a sunscreen, and then a BB cream. Non-negotiables for that morning is going to be cleanser, moisturizer, and mineral-based sunscreen. For the evening, I just do a cleanse. Typically, I'll do like a retinoid cream for acne, and then I'll throw on a moisturizer. Also for skin, and among getting other benefits, I've been doing the peptide GHKCU. So get your skincare dialed. Fashion, just dress intentionally, dress well. You don't have to. Fashion and style for men specifically, very little investment is gonna get you a very massive return. If you put in 20% of the effort, you'll get 80% of the results. For me, I've put in a little bit more effort than that, and it's starting to just get kind of fringe, but it's fun. I'm really enjoying it. So if you're not so interested in fashion, just do the bare minimum. Okay, maybe do one step above the bare minimum and call it a day. Define your context, kind of your everyday, where you're going in today, what's appropriate, and then figure out what fits inside there. Maybe fun ways to push the needle in some ways with accessories. And yeah, just have fun, kids. Don't get hurt. And then fitness. Strength training, probably at least 3 times a week, unless you've already got the body of your dreams and you just want to maintain. 3 to 5 times a week, making sure that you get stronger with your lifts and prioritizing the body parts that are actually going to move the needle in terms of filling out your frame, supplementing. So for me, my arms have always been really small and kind of weak. They just never grew. But why? It's because I never really paid attention to them. So I went on an arm-focused program, and I feel like now they have become much more like balanced when it comes to the physique. So for you guys, obviously identifying what these strong and the weak responders in terms of strength training stimuli are that you have, and then building your program around that. And then taking into consideration, okay, the shoulders, the arms, the upper chest, and the lat width. That's kind of what you want to focus on. And then allocating weekly sets to specific body parts accordingly. Okay, so when it comes to the YouTubers who are making content on this stuff, like this is not new information that I'm sending out there, but what I just laid out really quickly is kind of where most of the content usually stops. Do it for you, become your best self, so that you can attract the right partner, maybe even multiple partners, be highly selective, be a brutal man, and then procreate with the best mate, you know, have the strongest lineage. And in a way, there's something to that because that's how we're biologically wired. However, when it comes to our purpose and being good men, I think we have to dig a lot deeper than what those channels, what that typical content is talking about. I feel like it's insufficient, and it leaves most men feeling emptier, especially once they've hit that goalpost. Because when you're working towards a goal, when you haven't achieved it quite yet, but oh, once I get there, once I hit 9% body fat, once my wardrobe is all Tom Ford, any of these things, then I'll be happy. Then I'll have everything that I need. But then the goalpost always just keeps moving. And that moving of the goalpost seems to compound each time. The emptiness seems to get emptier. And I'm kind of speaking from personal experience. So yes, there's a reason why guys can hit their physical peak, dress really well, subjectively really well, still feel like there's something crucial missing. To sum up that idea, motivation that's rooted in self-image and self-obsession, it certainly has a ceiling and you'll hit it pretty quickly. I think it has a shelf life, at least from my experience, of, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a couple years at best, but you're not going to be able to maintain something worth building. Kind of like that Biggest Loser effect, you know, where you go on the show, you lose a bunch of weight, you kind of get towards your dream body, show's done, AKA you got the girl, or you didn't get the girl. You go home and a new normal kind of sinks in, or you return to your baseline, and then you just realize you can't keep it up. There's no reason why behind it. There's no driver that's actually deep. So when we're talking about drivers, when we're talking about motivators, there are two types that I'd like to kind of break down. First is going to be the inward-facing one. How do I look? How do I feel? How am I perceived by others in the world? And then there's outward-facing. Who am I becoming for? My future or even present family, my future or even present community, the people who will need me, who do need me, and depend on me. I've been reading the book, The Men We Need by Brant Hansen. Brant Hansen. And he makes a lot of compelling arguments. Apparently, the author is not like a buff guy. He's not looksmaxxed at all. He's just a Christian dude. He's a cool guy. He's a dad. He's a husband. But even if he doesn't have physical or aesthetic credentials, it doesn't matter because he is a man living on a deep purpose. And so he argues that a man's purpose is to be, I just want to get this right here, a controlled and cultivating presence. Someone who protects and builds rather than just consumes. And yes, boys, this does include consuming compliments, consuming attention.
What did he say?
And it makes sense. It makes sense why compliments, why attention, why the dopamine hit fades so quickly, and why it's not anything of substance. Because it was never meant to sustain us or to fill us up. And so it's just like the human body. When you fill it with junk food and when you fill it with crap, it's not gonna do what it was made to do. It's not gonna be healthy. It's not going to be of service and be of use to you or anyone else. And okay, so with this glow up, with 2026, with the summer, wherever you're at, even if you're not trying to glow up, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're not just building a body, that you're building a man. And so I think a really powerful question that we all need to be asking ourselves a little bit more is, who's gonna need, who is going to require the version of yourself that you're working towards? Okay, and so now we can talk about kind of the harder part, the harder truth that a lot of guys, and myself included, fall ill to. And that's the self-absorbed trap. The algorithm and kind of like scrolling culture dooming rewards ego-driven content. And vanity, although it certainly can be, it's not always obvious. It can really hide itself and embed into self-discipline and self-improvement language. But I'd like to kind of help you sift through that kind of stuff, the stuff that you'll come across on a daily basis on this platform specifically, to be able to audit and decide for yourself, okay, what am I watching, and is this actually, what category does this fall into? Okay, so signs that your glow up might be ego-driven. And I think mine kind of has been in some ways, and I'm working on it. We're working on this together. But sign number one is that you're only consistent when somebody notices. For me, ever since I was a kid, I used to do flips in parkour when I was younger. And ever since then, when I would do training, when I would work on my moves, I would often be at public playgrounds or at a community YMCA kind of center. And I would look around. I would look to see who was there, who was maybe looking my way before I would execute a flip or do a combo or do a move. And I think that boyish mentality has followed me throughout the years, and I haven't quite fully stomped it out. So yeah, this is an important one to just acknowledge. You don't have to do anything with it yet, but like, is this you? Okay, second, and it's kind of just the converse of this, is your motivation drops when you're not getting feedback or attention or sometimes even results, because a lot of these consistent things that we're working towards require a significant amount of time in our fast-paced, dopamine-chasing, short-term based minds, but in the grand scheme of things, not that much time at all. And then the biggest indicator, which I've also fallen to, you're improving your appearance, but not your character, not your patience, and not your reliability. And guys, like, I'm not gonna BS. Like, that's where I'm at. As of late, I have overly invested into that appearance camp, even at the expense of like my actual purpose on this planet. And it doesn't just affect you. Even if you're not married, even if you don't have kids, It doesn't just affect you. And so like, ask yourself these questions, identify it. So ultimately, strength without service or even at the expense of service, that's just performance. And as we know, the performative male aesthetic is so out, it's so done. And if you're like me, and you're realizing that like, shoot, that's kind of been me. It's not meant to guilt you unless that guilt drives you to make a change. It's about just shifting your focus, realizing, okay, that was a season, but now I have a choice. And we can build this empire, or we can have this glow up based on the right foundation that's gonna last. Okay, so what is it? What is that right foundation? Let's get right to it. It really just boils down to the one word, and that is stewardship. Taking care of what you've been given, what you've been gifted with on the behalf of others. So your body, your appearance, your health, these are not trophies for you to flaunt or to leverage or manipulate others with. It's a resource that you've been given. So, okay, let's practically reframe this. Looking at fitness, breaking down that pillar. Instead of saying, okay, I wanna be 8% body fat, which I still do. Saying, I wanna be physically fit, physically healthy, strong for my future kids, my future husband, and my community, the people who need me to be present and healthy and be here for a long time, as long as I possibly can be. Because when you're sick, when you're fat, when you're lazy, when you're incapable, it's not necessarily you who pays for it the most, it's the people around you that pay for it, that you drag down by lowering the standard. But then most importantly, it's the next generation. Like when you have kids, that they just learn that that's dad, so that's obviously what I'm to do. Impressions, especially first impressions, and appearance do matter. I think humans make a judgment and a very hard to reverse or alter kind of assumption about you based on your appearance. It sucks, it's not ideal. A lot of people will say, no. Personality just matters so much more to me than, are you sure about that? So I do think the thing called the halo effect, that is a real effect. Maybe not to the degree that Clav argued of where Mr. Charlie Kirk would still be alive if he was not chopped. That's kind of a crazy thing to say. So I'm not going that far. But getting off that tangent, when it comes to style, saying to yourself that I want to show up with intention. I want to show up in this world, in my community, at my job, even at the grocery store, with intention. It communicates confidence and self-respect, but it also communicates respect for others. My grandpa the other day was telling me how he remembers when you would go to the theater and people would be dressed to the nines. They'd be wearing suits and just looking amazing. Sure, there was some uniformity to it, but it was formal. It was intentional and thought out, but these days you go to the theaters and you see people wearing pajamas. Sometimes they might even be in the back wearing just a blanket, no clothes, and doing things under said blanket that require no clothes.
What?
Okay, next, looking at skincare and grooming, a really similar kind of mindset here, that taking care of myself is a part of not being a burden. I mean, like when it comes to skincare, if you don't apply a mineral-based sunscreen every day, like your risks of skin cancer and accelerated aging skyrocket. So if you have cancer, you're gonna be a burden. Cancer is expensive, it sucks, it can kill you, that would suck. So that's an extreme example with skincare, with grooming, but not all skin cancer is entirely preventable. But I'm just saying that it's self-respect with a purpose. It all just depends on how you frame it in your mind. But the world doesn't need more men who are self-obsessed, more men who just care and think about themselves. There are plenty of those. What it does need are men who show up for something. This doesn't kill the fun of the glow up. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Because for me, it makes it easier to rope other guys in, like in the real world, not just on Instagram, on Pinterest, on YouTube, but like grabbing some buddies saying, hey, this is why I'm trying to like lose some weight, get stronger, work on my sense of fashion. Do you want to do it with me? Because we're going to all ascend here for the good of our community, for the good of people around us. So yeah, like reframing it that way, it makes it bigger, much, much bigger. It makes it more fun, more motivating, and importantly, it gives the glow up more of a shelf life. Like it's something that you can maintain and should maintain. So yes, you can still care about aesthetics and not go to hell. Just an important question to ask yourself before you add something to the protocols or the regiment, or maybe even if you're like me and you're already at maximum capacity, critical overload of things that you've been doing, asking yourself, okay, what things am I doing, can I do? The things that I'm doing or the things that I'm thinking about adding, who does this serve beyond just me? To flesh that idea out a little bit more, asking yourself what kind of husband, father, leader, and friend do you want to be in the next 5, 10 years? I know it's kind of a scary thing, especially if you're a young guy who's like, dude, I haven't even had like my first girlfriend. I haven't even kissed a girl yet. But I'd argue it's even more important for you guys. Like no matter where you're at, I think knowing the end goal, knowing the end state, the end result, what you're shooting for, regardless of if it's 5 feet in front of you or if you're taking a mile-long shot, you need to know the target. And so yeah, don't worry guys, character work can and has to run alongside the physical work that you're doing. Patience, integrity, generosity, emotional steadiness, things that I lack.
Not bad, not bad.
But I mean, yeah, like even the Bible says physical training is good, like training godliness. I'm butchering the verse. But yeah, the glow up that actually lasts longer than a bulk cut cycle is the one that is paired with the internal and the external. And it's directed and pointed outwards, not inward. Cool, cool, cool. So I hope you guys found something useful in there. I love you guys. I'm excited about what we're building here. I'm excited about who we're becoming together because this is like an accountability thing for me in a way, and it's helping me to achieve my goals and hopefully alongside you as you do as well. Take care, guys. We'll see you in the next one, and God bless you.